Hello and welcome back to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of Amati Auctioneers based in the UK. This is an auction house which deals in musical instruments, primarily bowed strings, but they do occasionally do some guitars and things as well. This is one of their affordable auctions, so this is stuff which might need repair, has kind of unknown provenance, or maybe not as fine as the kind of usual stuff. Sometimes bits and bobs and parts and other things like that. I believe that there's so many instruments in this auction that it's actually split between the 24th and the 25th of February for the finishing date. It's live to bid on now, so we'll probably have to do two videos on this. Here's some information up front. So 22% buyer's premium. Obviously there's sometimes other fees applicable, and shipping fees if you're not collecting in the UK. As always, look through all the terms, look at all the information, and kind of explore and kind of figure out what the fees are. And I think because we've got quite a lot of stuff to go through, we're just going to kind of dive right in and see what we can find and see what's here. So without further ado, and I'll put a link in the description to this auction. The auction itself is kind of seamless. It goes for all the stuff which finishes on the 24th to the 25th, but I'll put a stop in the video when we get to the end of the stuff finishing on the 24th. So the first item here is a cello branded F Contal Meercourt. So here you can find the measurements, the estimate. So it's already at £400, finishing on the 24th. You can find out information about shipping, etc. The famous Amati 360 view there of the body. You can see there's a few repairs there. Usually, let's have a quick look at here, look at the scroll. Usually these Amati auctions have a condition report down here, which is color coded, that we've kind of looked at before. There's not condition reports here, but they probably will appear in the next few days. They usually have condition reports here, but sometimes they come a little bit later. So if you're looking at this auction and wondering where the condition report is, I suspect that the condition report will appear in the next few days. And it's possible, sometimes the cello ones are a little bit later than the violin ones. So we'll carry on and maybe we'll see if some of the violins have condition reports. If not, I assume if you contact them, if you don't see it, they will probably provide that information for you, but usually they appear within a few days of the auction going live, which was only a few days ago anyway. So lot 2, cello unlabeled. Once again you can see the measurements, but let's just quickly have a look at the other information. Oh, there's a condition report here, so it just seems for some reason that first cello doesn't have a condition report. So I do really like the Amati condition reports, I have to say. So you can see it's an open crack here at the top, closed crack, and then there's new wood here, so there's been quite a lot of repair, some open cracks on the side. Let's just see if we can see that on the top. So you can see it's an open crack there, and there's a few other bits, some others which might be open. You can see there's pretty obvious new wood kind of sliced in there. That's a pretty horrible repair, but yeah. And once again, the 360 view, I'm not going to go and look at every one of these 360 views, otherwise we'll be here forever. But yeah, this is what I usually expect from Amati, the kind of their standard front, back, side scroll, and then the condition report, and you can 360 this. Definitely would like to see a 360 of the scroll at some stage, that'd be good. Lot 3, a cello unlabeled. I think we can just skip on. We don't want to have a video that's 75 hours long. Another unlabeled cello. Let's have a quick look at that. Definitely a big crack there. Look at the scroll and just read the condition report. So yeah, you can see closed crack, and there's some stuff around the side. I mean, it's definitely be worth looking at that a bit more. It looks to be not the greatest repair there, because it looks a bit open, but if they say it's closed, I'm sure it is. It just needs a bit of adjustment. Another cello, that's an interesting looking one. This cello has been extensively modified, so you can see it looks like it's been extended. Here it's had kind of extra bits. It's yeah, look at that. It's been enlarged from like a child size or something like that to a full size, and on the back you can see it definitely has some age to it. So that's, yeah, this is an interesting looking cello, a bit of a Frankenstein cello. Definitely worth looking a bit closer at. No condition report though. Maybe if you're interested, definitely worth trying to get more information. Let's have a quick look on this 360, because this is a curious instrument. Oh wow, look at that. So there you go, no condition report, but there's a massive chunk missing, so you can add your another piece to the already kind of the jigsaw puzzle. Curious looking instrument though, for sure. Yeah, that's an interesting lot. Another cello unlabelled, missing its fingerboard there. Let's just quickly just see what the condition report says. Traces of worm here in the corner. It's not the most exciting of instruments, but we'll just have a look anyway. So, and next, another unlabelled cello. Okay. Bottom rib loose, varnished, rubbed down, replaced. You can see new wood. There you go, it's patched in. You can see these marks here. So, yep, that's interesting. A cello labelled, imported by Leslie Shepherd. And let's have a quick look at the back. Looks a bit like the varnish has been fiddled about with there. Doesn't say anything here. Got the cheek patches again on the scroll. You can see cut in there, peg bushing. It needs a bit of TLC, as most things will do in this auction. Cello labelled, repaired and varnished by L.G. Bates, 1986, Yorkshire. Centre joint slightly open on back. Probably down here, looks like it's a bit open. It's an interesting cello. Let's quickly look at the sides. Odd, interesting profile. Another unlabelled cello. I think we'll just quickly look at the scroll. Lot 11, a cello labelled Antonius Stradivarius. Okay. Interesting varnish there. Missing saddle and nut, edgework, signs of wear. Cello branded Falero, patent Adolf. Okay, wow, that's curious. It's a bit like those, the guitar-shaped violins, the Shano type things. It's interesting. I think a certain type of person are probably interested in that. It's a bit curious. A cello unlabelled. This looks another curious one. Dark varnish. Definitely needs a bit of repair there, doesn't it? Yep, it's definitely in need of TLC. So a lot of instruments in this auction already definitely in need of a lot of work. Repairs to neck, missing saddle. You can see some of the things which are marked on. Yeah, lots of open cracks there at the side. A little bit of worm on the top of the scroll. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, there's a little. It's had a little feast. Not too crazy. Right, we're on to violas. Let's see how many violas there are. A viola labelled Carl Bitterer, Mittenwald, 1931. Looks to be in fairly good condition. In a good state of preservation. Well, there you go. If you're interested in a viola, looks fairly standard. Right, we're on to bows, so not many violas there. An ivory mounted violin bow stamped Norris. So it's got ivory, so that's going to make it difficult to take anywhere or kind of import export, or more difficult, needs some paperwork. Let's look at the head. Yep, look at that. It's quite a nice head on that. There, Stump Norris. Frogs needs a bit of work. Let's look at the condition report. I can see repaired cracks, so it looks like it's all cracks to frog, but it looks like they've been repaired. So it's an interesting little bow. Current bid 350, so that's popular. Nickel mounted cello bow, unstamped. Okay, let's just quickly look at the condition report here. Mounts later. Sometimes it's difficult to read. I think it might be good if they could just type that in. I mean, it's not super hard to read, but it's a little bit difficult to read. So that's one comment I have. It's a nice, quite like that head. It's nice. Okay, well, let's not get too wound up in bows. Nickel mounted violin bow, unstamped. Frog ebony. I think let's just quickly look at this. So wear and standard kind of on the thumb projection is a bit worn down. Someone looks like some scratches onto that, so potential project for someone. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped E Dorfler. And let's just quickly look at this. In a good state of preservation, so there you go. Another Dorfler bow. Let's not get too into that. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped Marco Raposo. You do occasionally see these bows around. Another good state of preservation, so there's a few kind of lower tier bows here that are in good condition if you're looking for a slightly better bow than what you have already. Nickel mounted cello bow, stamped Atelier Jaeger. Good state of preservation. We'll not get too into some of these bows. Nickel mounted cello bow, unstamped. This is an interesting looking bow. Let's look at this one a bit closer. I like that head. Yeah, that's quite a nice, interesting bow. There's a few interesting bows in this auction so far. Good state of preservation. Yeah, that's interesting. Current bid 110. Curious. A nickel mounted cello bow, stamped JP Girard. Sometimes there's the weight and the length here as well. Let's have a quick look at that. Good state of preservation. This just gives you an idea of what they have. Nickel mounted violin bow, unbranded. Let's just check the measurements there. 54.9, total length 74.6. It seems maybe a little bit on the light side, weight wise. Perhaps it's on the border. Yes, doesn't. The curvature seems a little bit strange, but maybe that's just the way that it's tensioned. In a fair state of preservation, so nickel mounted violin bow, stamped Alfred Knoll. Let's just quickly look at the condition report. Good state. Let's have a look at that. Okay. Nickel mounted viola bow, branded Videome Paris. We'll just keep going for now. Nickel mounted viola bow, stamped Paysold. Nickel mounted cello bow, unstamped. Carry on. Nickel mounted cello bow, stamped CH Buthold. Let's quickly see. Filler to top of handle. I think that says handle. Not hair side. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's trying to indicate there, perhaps. Not sure exactly. So there's a bit of work needed on that. Cello, a nickel mounted cello bow, unstamped. Carry on. Nickel mounted viola bow, unstamped. It's not that I dislike bows, why I'm not kind of going into too much, looking at these too much. It's just that there's quite a lot, and they're all fairly I like to look at the more outrageous kind of ones. Later button, repair within mortise. So there's some kind of something going on inside the mortise there. This is all good things. I mean, ideally you would look at these in person and test them out. Nickel mounted viola bow, unstamped. Silver mounted violin bow, unstamped. Nickel mounted violin bow, unstamped. Nickel mounted violin bow again. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped, taut. Another unstamped nickel mounted violin bow. Violin bow stamped Bausch. Another unstamped violin bow. Let's see if there's any. Another nickel mounted bow, and another one, and another one. So good opportunity, I feel, if you're looking for a nickel mounted violin bow. This one looks a little bit more interesting. Interesting there on the head. Okay. No comments. Yeah, good opportunity perhaps if you're looking for a nickel mounted violin bow. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped Richard Gopel. Let's have a quick look at this. Picture of the head. Okay. In a fair state of preservation. Another nickel mounted violin bow. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped LeBlanc. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay. Fair state of preservation. Yeah, there's a lot of bows actually. Another nickel mounted bow. Another nickel mounted violin bow. We are onto violins. A violin labelled Nicholas Montanavi, 1926. Let's have a look at this. Okay. It's got the ebony crown. See, no comments, so it is whatever you think you want it to be. A violin labelled J.E. Zust in Zurich. Okay. Oh, there's a bit of a crack underneath the tailpiece there. Closed crack. A child's violin. We can move on. 3/4 size copy Antonio Stradivarius. So we'll see a lot of those kind of basic-ish instruments. A violin labelled Albert Schlegel, something like that. That was a terrible pronunciation. A violin labelled Neuner and Hornsteiner, 1893. Just a quick look at that. There's a few closed cracks. A violin labelled Jules Hermann Prell, 1941. Let's have a quick look at the scroll there. Quick look at the back. Violin labelled copy of Nicola Amati, made in Germany. And next one, violin labelled John Juzek, Prague, Master Art. So I believe these are super popular in the US. There's a lot of these kind of imported. I believe that despite the label, they're all kind of made in, well, probably Germany or in the workshops around there, rather than Czechoslovakia, or perhaps in workshops in Czechoslovakia, but not by John Juzek in Prague. I think this is a big discussion where people argue if he was a real violin maker, and if he worked in Prague or not, and all of this kind of, there's a big argument going on here. But these instruments, or at least the genuine ones, are popular in the US. It's all a big discussion. Violin labelled Arpesold. Missing its fingerboard. Yep, missing fingerboard. Stradivarius copy, we can move on. Violin labelled Migma. Missing saddle. There's a bit of a label. Label Wilhelm Lauten in Gürtchen. You see the measurements. 356. Yeah, we haven't looked at many measurements. Violin labelled Shoestring Co. I think we can go past this. Violin labelled Albert de Blay. Let's have a just quick look at that. Violin unlabelled. Interesting. Sold with one bow. Body length 355. Some of the other measurements a bit off. Well, that's an interesting varnish. Some interesting purfling. Let's have a look at the back. Here we go. Missing pegs. Candle wax on upper base rib. Okay. Interesting. That's a curious looking instrument. A violin labelled Made in Nippon. So a quick look at that. Okay. Moving on. A violin labelled Antonio Stradivarius. That's a pretty standard instrument there. A violin labelled Stradivarius. Again. Violin labelled copy Nicolaus Galeano. That's another fairly standard instrument with a dodgy button. Damage to button, yep. So we can see that's in a pretty bad state, so that will need some attention. It looks like a pretty standard workshopy instrument. 3/4 violin. Actually, let's have a look. Unlabelled. It's got quite a figure for a child's violin. It's got a big open crack there at the side, so it needs some attention. A violin labelled Jacobus Steiner. Ooh. Sold with 1-2 bows. I think that's probably meant to say 2 bows rather than 1. So there you go. Bonus bows. Let's have a quick look on the spinning wheel. Okay. That's an interesting enough instrument. Okay. No comments. Bit of missing wood. Bit of closed crack. It's like soundpost crack there. Violin unlabelled. It's an interesting shape. Branded Hopf. Probably 2 bows again, or 1 bow. Hard to say. Open back there. Neck loose, centre joint open at back, ribs slightly open at bottom. Okay, actually, what's the measurements here? Length body 355. Violin labelled Geo Forest Jedburg. That's an interesting one, isn't it? 357. That's an interesting instrument. Very, very long, kind of narrow scroll that. That's curious. Upper bars, rib open. Okay. Let's carry on. Violin unlabelled. There's a damage to button. Lower back is open. What was it? Yeah, let's have a look. Repair to button. Yeah, big kind of cracks there. 3/4 size violin labelled Joseph Guarnerius. There's a few more pictures on this one. Let's have a look. Neck's detached. Pictures to the inside. Okay. Condition report. Neck loose, small mite holes visible on inside table, photograph of which to be uploaded. Okay. It's got open cracks and closed cracks, so looks interesting. Violin unlabeled. Okay. Nothing to report. Let's go. 79, a violin labelled Nicholas Amati in parts. Okay. Yep, you can see it's a big crack there. It's obviously in bits, so a bit of a restoration there. Violin labelled Antonio Stradivarius. Okay. It's a bit of a shonky scroll. Varnished, rubbed down. This scroll is a bit interesting, isn't it? It's not very refined, shall we say, although the rest of the instrument looks not too bad, but the scroll's a bit wonky. Interesting. Violin unlabeled. Fancy purfling back. Rub slightly down. 3/4 size violin labelled Neumann Hornsteiner. A violin labelled Anton Hoffmann. Violin labelled JTL. Violin labelled John Baptist Schweitzer. Okay, violin labelled Omlaget Alfred Nielsen. So I completely butchered that one, as I butchered everyone. Looks like a pretty standard instrument though. Violin labelled Ferdinandus Galliano. Looks pretty standard. Violin labelled Marno Sorensen Copenhagen, 1940. That's interesting. It's got the kind of Guarneri F holes. It's a little bit, yeah. That's curious. What's the? There's some open crack there, a few closed cracks. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. A violin labelled C.F. Arverson, instrument maker, Copenhagen, 1891. Okay, let's have a look. It's interesting body shape, interesting back. Yep, let's look at the condition report. Yeah, looks like an interesting instrument. Violin labelled Pietro Veneri, Napoli. Interesting coloured varnish. Let's just look at the scroll again. Some mark and damages. Violin labelled Antonio Stradivari. Just have a quick look at that. Not too exciting. Violin labelled Giacomo Zanoli, 1750. Looks interesting. Let's have a quick look on the 3D viewer. Yeah, this looks interesting. Okay. There's a net graft on that. So that is, yeah, current bid 750. That is bound to go for a fair amount of money, I'm sure. Violin unlabelled. Go past that. Another violin unlabelled. Looks fairly standard. Violin unlabelled, very dark, heavy varnish. So it's interesting. Has some charm. A 3/4 size violin labelled Franz Sanden Naunheim. A violin labelled Joseph Guarnerius. You can see that kind of Guarneri style F holes, but not too exciting. A violin labelled Antonio Stradivari. It's kind of interesting corners there. Interesting. Curious back. There's some worm damage there already, you can see. Interesting later tail. I was going to say the table looks very new compared to the back. Table not original. It's an interesting composite instrument. It does look to have a fair bit of age there on the scroll and the back, but the top just really doesn't fit with it. It's quite obvious, but interesting. Actually, let's have a quick look actually in the side view on that and just see what we can see. Let's have a look. Okay, interesting. A violin labelled repair S. Carlson, Copenhagen. So let's have a quick look at this. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Varnish significantly altered. It's very deep red. Let's quick check the measurements. Okay. A violin branded Breton violin. Looks pretty standard. I quite like the scrolls, quite interesting. 101, a violin labelled Fritz Grafsmann, Berlin, 1912. Okay. A 3/4 size violin, unlabelled. We'll move past that. Violin labelled Giovanni Maggini, J. Ultricher. Quick look at the measurements. 3/6. That's very large back, so it's difficult for some people to play. Violin label part A.F. Hoffman. There's a lot of this Copenhagen stuff today. Some peg bushing there. Okay. A violin unlabelled with interesting F holes. Violin labelled John Bapt Schweitzer, dark varnish. That's quite interesting. I do sometimes quite like some of these dark, funny varnish violins. Okay, a bit of issue with the scroll there. You can see it's been broken. And let's carry on. A violin labelled under Amati Cremona. Let's quickly just have a look anyway. Violin label Matthias Heinkel Wildstein. Some damage there. Okay. A violin branded IGS. A violin unlabelled. Let's just quickly look at the scroll there. 3/4 size violin. Go past that. A violin unlabelled. Looks curious. Looks like quite a low quality instrument. Scratches and wear to varnish. 3/4 size violin. A violin labelled Mediofino. A violin unlabelled with a big crack at the top. Yep, big crack. Centre joint open on back as well, so there's more work to be done. 3/4 size violin. A violin unlabelled. Very, very low quality. Violin labelled Jos Rauscher München. Violin labelled Jacques Steiner in Absam. This looks pretty standard. 3/4 size violin unlabelled. A violin unlabelled. Looks like it said funny varnish. Varnish original but quite eccentric. Yeah, well, I would agree with that. You can see that it's a bit messy and it's a bit streaky, so curious. Could be someone's amateur attempt there, or a violin bought in the white and then finished and varnished. A violin labelled Francesco Ruggieri. Okay. And Violin labelled Tony Stradivari. Violin branded Duke, London. Yep. Chips and wear to varnish. Books of Mirecourt luthiers are on books here. Venetian instruments, painting and drawings. Violin makers of the Guarneri family. Ooh, nice books. The shape of Stradivari forms and violins. Technical studies in the arts of musical instrument making. Violin bridges book. I think we've looked at that before. Stradivari's violin forms. And the monograph collections. And I think after that, yes, we're on to the 25th, so we'll check that another time. So yeah, I think all in all, curious really, and I think that my yes, I think my pick of this auction, just because it looks a bit curious to me, is this violin labelled Geoforest Jedburgh. I just think it looks a little bit, I like things that are a little bit out of the norm, and I don't know, there's something about this, it's just a little bit bizarre, a little bit interesting. The very kind of narrow peg box I find curious. So that's just my opinion. It's probably no one else's opinion. But yes, so that has been the first part of the Amati auction, and we will now look at the second part. So thanks a lot for watching. Ciao, bye. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.